There is no way in the world that I would overlook, that I would not be open-minded to things that contradict what has already been put out there.
In a new court filing, Robinson's defense says an ATF analysis could not conclusively connect that bullet fragment recovered during Charlie Kirk's autopsy to the rifle found at the scene or near the scene. The FBI is running additional testing at this point.
Before we get to this, I want to talk about Tatum's store just real quick. I want you guys to know there's some other cool designs that are coming out, and you need to go on and get it. We'll see if we're going to launch the I Support Erica Kirk shirt. I already have the shirt. I just don't know if I want to launch it. I want to get with Erica to make sure that, you know, we can send proceeds from the shirt to something that she's into and that she wants to go to. So, because I don't want to just be doing it and then everybody complain about, Bernie, you made the money off of it. And no, we will work with her to get it to where she wanted to go. So we'll make a survey. I want to hear from you guys. Let's talk about the Daily Mail article. I'm going to try to pull the article up so you guys can read it because the article was incredibly deceptive. Bullet used to kill Charlie Kirk did not match rifle allegedly used by suspect Tyler Robinson's new court filings claim. Now, let me explain this to you because if you go down in the article, here, put the article back up there. When you go down in the article, and we'll probably read some of this together, it articulates very clearly what that means. But the headline is deceptive, and everybody that want the killer of Charlie Kirk to get off, they're salivating at the opportunity for that to happen. Put it back on me. There's a difference between a bullet being identified and matching a gun that's different than the suspect weapon, which means that the bullet fragment was recovered, it was test fired, and it was identified with the gun that wasn't the suspect gun. That is different than the bullet is so fragmented that it was inconclusive, which makes it impossible to identify it with any gun, including the suspect weapon. Now, the reality of what's happening is the latter. The former is what they tried to allude to in the Daily Mail article in the title. Now, let's read it real quick so we can be on the same page. It says the bullet that killed conservative commentator Charlie Kirk may not match the rifle used by suspected killer Tyler Robinson, a bombshell new court filing states. Now, this is, so you guys know, a court filing isn't truth. This is the defense team raising a concern or a question or something that they are going to try to defy, or not defy, but they're going to try to defeat in the court proceeding. That does not mean that it's true, all right? Continue to read. It says Robinson's 22 is facing capital murder charges on potential death sentence for Kirk's murder in Utah Valley University on September the 10th. Now, obviously, in my opinion, this entire situation is because they don't want him to get the death penalty, and so they're building up a defense. I don't think nobody in their mama think that he's innocent. People who are privy to the case. All right, let's get back to the article. All right, it says, but the defense attorneys now argue that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, the ATF, was unable to identify the bullet recovered at the autopsy to the rifle alleged tied to Mr. Robinson. The question that you need to ask yourself is, why weren't they able to identify the bullet recovered? Like, I want you guys to understand what's being said here. It did not say they were able to identify the bullet and it didn't match the gun. They're saying they were unable to identify the bullet recovered at the autopsy, meaning that they were unable to get the pieces of the bullet together in a sufficient amount, an efficient way to be able to connect it to the gun that was fired. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of legal jargon. All right, continue to go down. It said the defense team may now offer the ATF firearms analyst testimony as exculpatory evidence. They said that the motion filed on Friday to push the preliminary hearing back at least 6 months. There's a reason why they're doing these things, y'all. They did not want the case to be public. They wanted to make sure that they push the case, and they're doing all these objections. This is what defense attorneys do because they want to set their client up for the best possible situation that he will not get the death penalty. There's no way in the world that they think that he's not going to get found guilty. If you look at the court filings, they have not put a plea in yet. So some people think that he didn't plead guilty. He hasn't put a plea in yet. They may actually have him plead guilty. I don't know. We don't know. They haven't done a plea yet. Let's continue to read the article real quick, and then we'll get to more analysis. It says, It also noted that the DNA reported filed by the Federal Bureau of Investigations and the ATF that takes time for a defense team to analyze because reports indicated that the several different DNA samples were found on some items of evidence. Now, is that odd? Is that abnormal? No, it's not. If you're a conspiracy theorist and you want everything to be that the Jews killed Charlie Kirk and you don't want to listen to any real evidence that points to Tyler Robinson being the suspect, although he's been arrested, then you will say, oh, DNA was on other stuff. Let me just give you an example. There's multiple people's DNA. I know it sounds weird, but there's multiple DNA samples on my gun. If I were to go and shoot somebody today and they did a test of DNA on my gun, they're going to find 5 or 6 people on my DNA on my gun. Why is that? My security guy touched my gun. My wife has touched the gun. I think we went shooting the other day, and I let somebody else shoot my gun at the shooting range. So, there's multiple items of DNA. My oldest son's DNA could be on my gun because he shot my gun not too long ago, and I'm not cleaning my gun every day. So if something were to happen, people may say there are multiple DNA samples on the gun that Brandon Tatum used. It's not odd that happens. Same with my AR-15. You had the guy at the gun club that, sometimes I had them clean the gun or whatever the case may be, but this time I got the can on it. Shout out to Silencer Shop. I got a suppressor on the gun. The person that had the suppressors put the suppressor on the gun first to send me a picture of it, and then they took the suppressor off, so I had to go down there and sign the paperwork. Then I got the suppressor. My security guy had the gun. I let him shoot the suppressed gun, and all kinds of people got hands on suppressors and all kind of other stuff. So it's not too abnormal that there could be multiple DNA. And the due diligence of a defense team, they do need to go through the evidence. And it says that these cases determine the number of contributors to the DNA mixture and determining whether the FBI and the ATF reliably applied validated and correct scientific procedures, which is normal. Is a complicated process which requires the assistance of various types of experts, including forensic biologists, geneticists, system engineers, and statisticians, all of whom must review and evaluate several different categories the filing states. Okay, that's normal. This happens in every trial. If you're a real defense attorney, you have to take all of the evidence and have it reevaluated by your own experts. Robinson's attorneys add that they have received about 20,000 electronic audio electronic audio files, videos, and written documents that prosecutors have presented as evidence in this case. Now, I want you to think about this for a minute. 20,000 electronic audio, video, and written documents. When someone wants to, I guess, do a true evaluation of, do they have the right person? When you have 20,000 items of evidence that the prosecution has presented, this means that the prosecution has determined that this amount of evidence proves their case. They have to present it for the defense, and the defense have to evaluate it. 20,000 items of evidence is insane, ladies and gentlemen. And what this implicates is that they are claiming that we have 20,000 items of evidence that prove that Tyler Robinson is the one that did the murder, did the assassination. So just keep that in mind while you're evaluating is this legitimate or not, or if the FBI made a mistake or not. All right, let's continue to read. All right, let's go down a little bit. Look at that devil. He'll burn in hell unless he give his life to Christ. And look at Charlie Kirk. This is a man that we lost, and what are y'all doing today? Destroying his wife and his legacy and Turning Point USA and everything that man stood for. He did all this in vain for some of you because you want clicks and you want sound bites and you're easily deceived. Instead of standing up for this man here, you're pushing conspiracy theories. All right, let's go down a little bit. All right, let's see. It says the defense team. Now, don't you find it ironic that they talk about the defense team halfway down the article? You would think that they would allude to what the defense team is evaluating at the top of the article, but they wouldn't do that because they need clicks from you, which I don't blame them. That's what they do for a living. That's their company motto, right? All right. The defense team has devoted and will continue to devote significant resources to process and discovery, including identifying material not yet received and inform readiness of the preliminary hearing, okay? Let's see. Let's go down. However, the defense team is realistic and the comprehensive review required to determine what is missing will take hundreds of hours. What is known at present is that Mr. Robinson has not yet received the forensic case files and data necessary to investigate. Through the use of qualified experts, scientific reports, the state intends to introduce at the preliminary hearing, the attorneys continued. It says the defense attorneys and prosecution have previously met on March the 12th. Based on the meeting, the defense said the motion it believes prosecutors will introduce discrete buckets of evidence through 3 identified law enforcement witnesses at the preliminary hearing. This include conclusive, what's that? What's that? Conclusory. I ain't never seen that word in my life. Conclusory forensic DNA and ballistics reporting authorities by the FBI and ATF, social media data, testimony by law enforcement officers and about the crime scene and search location, testimony by Mr. Robinson's parents, roommates, as well as significant amount of hearsay from non-testified peace officers. All right. Prosecutor have also alleged that Robinson drove 3 hours from his home to the university campus to kill Charlie Kirk. All right. So let's talk about this because there's a lot of stuff here and we can go over it. I think I can continue to read the article. It says he was turned over to authorities by his father, Matt, after he recognized his own dad's rifle in the image released by police aimed amid a manhunt for Kirk's assassin. Taylor's grandfather had given him the rifle as a gift before he used it to kill Charlie Kirk, authorities have said. After then, recognizing the unique gun, Matt texted his son, asking him for the picture of his father's heirloom, which the suspect could not provide, according to police. In text exchange between Tyler Robinson and his roommate and partner, Lance Twiggs, the alleged killer claimed the rifle was the only evidence he left behind, court documents show. If I'm able to grab my rifle, y'all already read that. They're just quoting some of the evidence. Robinson also reportedly wrote about planning to get the weapon from his drop spot. They have that. Let's see, we have all that. These are all things that they had already written. I'm worried about the old man, what he would do. I mean, all of these things that he's saying is incriminating. And the little weirdo here that he was getting banged up by. All of these little weird stuff that he's doing. Alleged killer then expressed concern that his father would ask for the gun. I mean, these are things that what we call circumstantial evidence, ladies and gentlemen. And it says it might be abandoned. Okay, these are all things that we already know. So if you're going to read the article, make sure you read all the way down because they do recap some of the things that are notable. All right. Let's get to this part and I'm going to sum it up for you. I think let's put it this way. I want the person who killed Charlie Kirk to be brought to justice and put to death. That's what I want. I don't think that there's many people out there that want justice more than I do. Maybe his wife and his mom and daddy, maybe. They want justice more, I would assume. But there is no way in the world that I would overlook, that I would not be open-minded to things that contradict what has already been put out there. Let's make something really clear, and I want you guys to listen to me on this. Quit listening to these people that just want to get clicks. The FBI, local law enforcement, is not allowed to release certain information. When you are a person, I'm going to give you an example. Breonna Taylor. I knew almost everything about Breonna Taylor before it ever hit the news. But I never shared it because I did not want to compromise the case. I let them file the case. I let it go to trial. I let it go to court or whatever the case it be. Then I released it because I didn't want to compromise. So if there's anybody that's claiming that they got information about the case and you find them disclosing information about the case through sources, that person is making a grave mistake. And that person does not care about the trial. They care about what their image look like and being correct. If you get information in a case like this, you keep it to yourself until they go to trial. And then you can begin to disclose the information that you had when they're in trial because there's no turning back. You don't do it before the trial because you can cause a mistrial. And then somebody can draw in a question, What information do you have? And then they can draw on the question, well, we need your electronic communications because have you been communicating with investigators and information that's been disclosed to you that's not being disclosed to the defense or being disclosed to the prosecution? And now you have found yourself involved in a trial. And you may end up committing or causing a mistrial in a situation where a guy is guilty as the noonday sun, or it's clear that he's guilty as the noonday sun. I'll say this as well. People have these conspiracy theories in their mind that the FBI is not telling us everything. Of course they're not telling you everything. They cannot tell you everything. This is an investigation. They have to win at trial. They're not here to tickle your fancy on a podcast. That's not their job. I did this for a living. I know what information that we didn't ever put out to the media and we never put out to the people because it was a part of an investigation that we could not compromise. And some people want them to compromise a case where they have Charlie Kirk's killer. Some people want Charlie Kirk's killer to get off. They cannot release this information to you because it could be damaging. The same reason why the defense team is not releasing all the information they have, because they don't want to taint the jury pool. And this is why they don't want the case to be public. Let me finish this. I think Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. Now, could somebody have been behind, encouraging him, indoctrinating him, giving him resources to do it? That could be a possibility. But we have no real evidence of that. There is so much overwhelming evidence that Tyler Robinson did this. But what's happening is that there are people who don't do investigations and they love to do click and get you excited, but they're not being genuine about the process. They're not being genuine when they tell you that his parents are the one that identified him on the surveillance. His dad sent him a text, which is an electronic communication that's been extracted through the investigation. You can't fake the text. It came from this phone to this phone. His dad messaged him about the gun. He responded to his father about the gun in a text from this cell phone to this cell phone. These are reasons why he got arrested. His dad is saying the gun is missing. His dad is saying that's my father's gun. My son had that gun. And for people out here believing in conspiracies, how do you think that? You think the FBI stole that gun from his grandfather? You think the FBI found a random kid, stole the gun from his grandfather, put his DNA on it, threw it in the woods, had his dad text him about it, had his dad identify him? If it was another random person identifying him, I could see how you guys may question it. His own father and mother independently identified him in the surveillance video. It's his grandfather's gun. His grandfather, I don't know if his grandfather's alive to testify to it. I think he is. His father will testify to it. The prosecution is going to call his parents, his boyfriend, and family members to the stand. If the prosecution didn't think they were going to snitch on him, they wouldn't call him to the stand. They're calling these people to the stand because they're willing to testify against Tyler Robinson. Family identified him, DNA on the gun, motive was there, text messages, handwritten letter, posts on Reddit or whatever that forum was. I think it was Discord. They got posts on Discord. I mean, you name it, they have a lot of evidence. And I'll end it with this. All I'm saying here, ladies and gentlemen, is that be fair, balanced, and patient with the investigation. There's no reason to think that the defense team is doing anything wrong. There's no reason to believe that the prosecution is doing anything wrong. There's no reason to believe that the FBI or local law enforcement did anything wrong. You're jumping to conclusions that don't need to be had. At face value, and from all that I know about investigations over the years that I've been covering this stuff and also doing it for a living, it doesn't appear that there's any impropriety so far in this investigation based on what we know, not what we speculate. Therefore, when they go to trial, which is why I think we should fight for this to be a public trial, then we'll be able to see who is saying what and what evidence we have. This would be a telltale sign if the prosecution was wrong. is if the prosecution was fighting that this wouldn't be public. If the prosecution had something to hide and they faked all this stuff, they wouldn't want the public to know about it. Some of you guys are saying that the government had something to do with it, but the government is telling you they want the trial to be public. Now, the people that don't want the trial to be public is the defense team, because they're trying to get this boy off of the death penalty. All right? All right, let's get to, we got a super chat that just came in. I'm going to get to that, then we get to our other stories. I'm sorry that took too long. I had to get this stuff on my chest because this is Charlie's life, legacy, and the pursuit of justice. This is nothing to play with. And some people want this Tyler Robinson guy to get off. And it's crazy if he was to get off and he was the one that killed our friend Charlie. It's crazy to me.